So in the 6th stanza, it is described that the Devas made the fire offering, and here for the first time the Devas are mentioned. What? Fire offering. Fire offering. That is offering something into the flame of the fire in the name of God. The Devas made the fire offering. For the first time the Devas are mentioned here. And it's not described where from the Devas have come. And previously it was described that everything was Purusha and he was born. So it is to be understood that the Devas were born from the parts of the body of the Purusha. And elsewhere in some other sooktams, it is clearly described how the various Devas form parts of the body of the one person. So we have to correlate certain things from the other hymns. Also in this hymn, in the subsequent stanzas, some of the Devas are mentioned as the parts or the limbs of the same Purusha. In this same hymn, in the subsequent stanzas, we find how some Devas came out of the limbs. But for the time being, let us understand that they have come from the limbs of the same Purusha. It is described that the three parts of the Purusha evolved upwards, and then in the fourth quarter, everything was made objective and tangible and according to form and measure. That is how it was described previously. And again, from the fourth part, the egg was born, and again the egg became an independent egg of Purusha, and it produced its own four parts. And the same process continues. And again from the fourth part, the egg was born, like that. That is, the Purusha in the capacity of the parent and the child or offspring. So the concept of the egg was there as the brilliant egg or the egg of light. It was all described. And now, whenever there is the birth of the Purusha from the egg, because it was also described in the previous stanzas, if we understand properly, an alternation of generations of the Purusha. I think some of you may happen to be students of biology. If you have studied a little bit of botany, you know what is called the alternation of generations. For example, there are some plants which produce one type of plant in one generation and another type of plant in the next generation, again the first type of plant in the next generation, like that. The first is called sporophyte and the second is called gametophyte. Gametophyte is useful to get itself married and multiply. That's the meaning of the word gami in Greek and Latin, because in Sanskrit you find a word gami, that is copulation, male and female meeting. Same thing in Greek and same thing in Latin also. Gamete means a fellow who is ready to meet his or her mate. So in one generation it is produced as gametophyte. In the next generation it produces only spores or seeds, when it is called sporophyte. Like this, there is what is called the phenomenon of the alternation of generations in the biological kingdom. Here also this fellow is described, this Purusha is described as having the alternation of generations. That is, the Purusha is produced and then the egg is produced from Purusha, and from the egg the Purusha is produced. Just as the bird is produced from the egg and the egg is produced from the bird, we see. That is how it is described hitherto. The egg is called Virat in the previous stanza. Virat. Tasmat Virat Ajayata, we have seen it. Virat means the brilliant egg or the egg of light. So from the Purusha the egg is born. From the egg the Purusha is born. So there is an alternation of the egg and the Purusha. That means the concept of the globe as a unit space, and then the content as the Purusha coming out as creation. Again the space, and again the content of the space as Purusha. That is, the creation of the worlds from space is just described here. The egg indicates the globe of light from which time and space evolve as the two properties of Purusha, and Purusha comes out as the creation, as the solar systems and then planets and then the various atoms and then the evolving forms of the bodies. That is how the order goes. Now here it is described, as soon as the Purusha is born from the egg, every time the egg is born from the Purusha and the Purusha is born from the egg. The moment the Purusha is born from the egg, there are the devas from his parts of his body, and they made a fire offering. They should have something to offer into the fire. They had nothing except the Purusha from whom they were born. So they offered him as the something, the oblation into the fire. Because except the Purusha there was nothing in existence, and they came out from him as existences, and they found only him and they made him an offering. That is how it is described. That means when the intelligences of creation awaken, they find themselves already in the one existence, whom we call Purusha, that is the omnipresence of the one existence. And then if they want to do something, they should do with him. For example, if they want to eat, whatever they eat should be the presence of the same Purusha. That is what we call food. Is nothing but one form of the same Purusha. If we call our body, the body is nothing but another form of the same Purusha. So they had to offer the same fellow as offering. They found nothing except the fellow. They found themselves in him. That was how it happened. And why it is called fire offering is the whole thing has come out as a phenomenon of fire. Fire means there is some heat, there is some light, and there is some combustion. That is how the creation comes and exists. Without these things, there is no creation and there is no existence. There should be at least sunlight. Before sunlight, there should be something which made the sunlight. That which made the sunlight was the base of sunlight. It was darkness where the devas were working. That is how it is described. The three exist in three aspects. On the one plane, they exist as radiation or pure light. In the second plane, they exist as what you call electricity and magnetism. In the third plane, they exist as what we physically call heat, light and combustion. All the three exist in three planes called three fires. So, in the first plane, it is the first fire, cosmic fire. In the second plane, it is the electrical fire. In the third plane, it is the fire by friction. That is what we know as fire. So, your electricity and magnetism come in the second manifestation. No, not here. Wait. And these three fires, afterwards they are described as having 7 sub-fires, 7 flames each. In the next stanza itself, it will be described that there are 3 main fires and 7 sub-fires each, making 21 total. For the details, you have to go to the treatise on cosmic fire. So here it is described as fire offering, and exactly here the word fire means from subjectivity to objectivity, a process is called combustion. Previously the whole creation was in the subjective stage. At the fourth stage it comes to the stage of objectivity, when it is called the first explosion into objectivity. It is described as something like this in the Rig Veda. It is called the 4-armed explosion. In the Vedic chantings it is called Chatasra. Chatasra means the 4-armed explosion. that is, it explodes into the something like the plus mark, because it produces creation in 4 stages. That's how it is poetically described in one of the other hymns, the same Veda. And the whole thing is described as fire offering, because what we call the flame of the fire is the true first example of objectivity. When there is flame, we say there is fire. But before the flame, was there not fire, or was there fire or not? Yes. Where was it? It was existing as the content of the space. Everywhere in space there is the existence which we can call the previous stage of fire, stage which is previous to flame. Otherwise, where from the fire is brought? Is it the matchstick containing fire? If there is fire already in the matchstick, it would have burnt in the pocket itself. So, fire is neither in the matchstick nor in the matchbox, but in between, and it is brought out. That's why, yes, that's why in the Rig Veda it is described that the fellow is again and again called out. The term used is like this. Puruhuta. Puru means again and again. Huta means called out. The fire, the fellow fire, is called out again and again into existence. These are all highly scientific words, having very good concepts. They are often used in the scriptures. Puruhuta. Puru means again and again, repeatedly. Huta means called. So, whenever we do some attempt with the matchbox or some friction, it is calling him out. Then what we call flame is the form of the fellow called out into objectivity. That is how the fire is described in the Vedas. And what is yourself? There is the question in the Rig Veda. Yourself living in this body is nothing but a fire flaming. For that, to provide the fuel, the body is produced and it is there. And for the flame to exist, the respiration is produced, it is there. That is how it is described in the Rig Veda, in some other hymns. So, just let us presuppose all those hymns and try to understand the significance of the term fire offering. Because life is fire. And where from life comes to this earth? It is from the sun. And through the sun's rays, life is radiated into this earth. And then the living beings are there on this earth. Therefore, life is one form of fire. Another important, interesting thing is life as one of the forms of fire is described as a horse coming down from the sun to this earth. Why? Because the horse is the only animal which has the maximum amount of manifestation of life anywhere in any part of its body. Do you know it can move any part of its body? Horse is the only animal which can move just any part of its body. Move. Yes. Suppose there is some fly or something here. It need not do like this. It moves the part, it goes like that. It is described in the same scripture, Rigveda. It is described that the horse is an incarnation of life, because every part of its body is full of life, and maximum quantity of life is being produced from any part of its body. Do you notice that many species of horses, they do not lie down and sleep? It's the only animal which doesn't require sleeping, lying down. It stands. So for certain reasons, the ancients observed that the horse was an animal which embeds the maximum quantity of life force in it and life currents. That's why in ancient days, fire as life, it is compared with horse in the Vedic and the Greek texts also, Greek scriptures also. And in the Puranas, it is described that the wife of sun god came down to earth as a mare, that is a she-horse, and the sun god followed her as a horse, and on earth they mated, and the earth was peopled with living beings. That is how the story goes. It's an interesting story. Yeah, all beings, including human fellows. And it is also described that the Lord on this earth sits on the horse and rides and travels. That means the indweller of living bodies, he moves in this body by virtue of the life force. He takes this as his vehicle, life. Therefore, he has a body and he can live in it. Yes. White horse is the symbol of the law once again being established on earth. Yes. So here it is described as fire offering. Of course, horses also will be described in the subsequent stanzas. And for the fire offering, there should be some ghee, that is, that which is prepared from butter, has the oil. If you see the Vedic ritualist doing fire offering, you know how he does that. He brings some firewood, he puts some ghee as oil, and then he produces the flame and ignites. While producing the flame also, he never uses any matches, or the already produced flame he never uses. He uses an instrument which exists like this, a wooden instrument with a ball and socket arrangement. He has a string, a rope around it. He does it like this, and he catches sparks of fire produced by friction between two pieces of wood. He catches it with cotton, and then he uses the fire to ignite the firewood. And then he has the fuel, and then the oil, that is clarified butter, which we call ghee. Here it is produced like that in this Purusha, and this ghee is the spring season. The spring season is used as ghee. That means the cycle of the year is produced. What was first produced is the periodicity of our cycles, that is the seasons. The nature of seasons was first produced in time. Before the creation was there was no time. As soon as the creation is there is the time, because there is the mind of this cosmos. The moment the mind is there, the creation is there. And as soon as the time is there, time exists only in cycles. So the cycles of time started, and then there was the first season called the spring season, because to the Vedic ritualist, the year starts with the spring season. There are 4 different beginnings to the year for 4 different purposes, and the spring is one. The rainy season is another. The moon season was another, and the winter solstice was another. In the Vedic scriptures, we have 4 different beginnings of the year for 4 different purposes, called the longest day, which is described in the Indian scriptures as the golden pyramid. The longest day is called the golden pyramid. That is June 22nd. We have longest day and shortest night in the whole year. And here, it starts in September 21st, the moon season. And here, this starts with December 22nd. It's called the blind sage. That is the longest night. In the Vedic scriptures, this fellow, the longest night, is described as the blind sage, sage born blind, who gave birth to many children. See, the blind fellow also gave birth to many children. Sage. So, this is how the 4 beginnings of the year are described. This is called, the first is called Vasanta. Here you find it in your stanza. Vasanto Asyasi Rajyam. Vasanta, that is the spring, is taken as the butter, that is the ghee, that is the fuel. Why? The spring season gives a spring to the life in every living being. It produces flower and new twigs of leaves in the tropical countries during that season. When the leaves are shed, old leaves are shed out, new leaves sprout from the first day of the spring season, and flowers are thrown from the tree out. So there is the spring up of the new life. Hence it is described as the oil that gives the combustion, the oil that makes the flame possible.
In the fire?
Yes. Yes, it is traditional that the ghee used to produce the flame. Yes, it's thrown in the firewood and then ignited, it burns, it gives the flame. It is used as oil. Yes. Hotra, yes, Agni Hotra. Agni means fire, Hotra means flame, flaming the fire. So, the spring season was made the ghee. That means, in the spring season, the Devas worked out the life coming out from the bodies, shining forth. So, the word Vasanta means the spring season that starts with March. And you have the word Sharat, That means the season that starts with September 21st, the moon season. If you want the names of the other two also, I will give you. Here, the rainy season is called Varsha. The beginning of the rainy season, June 22nd, is called Varsha. And the winter solstice, the season beginning with winter solstice, it is called Hemanta. Now, Vasanta is made the ghee for the offering by the Devas. The fellows, they brought the Vasanta, that is the spring season, as the ghee spilt upon the firewood. And where from they brought the firewood? It is said that there is what is called summer after the spring season. There are 6 seasons in the tropics, I told you yesterday. The 6 seasons run like this. March 21st, spring. May 21st, summer. June 22nd, rainy season. August 21st, no, I think add 60 days each about. I think this is July. September 21st, it is called moon season. No, it is. You have to take the lunar days into consideration and add 60 each. 6 seasons of 60 days each from March 21st. I think November 21st onwards you have to winter. January 20th, autumn. Like this, autumn. These are the seasons of the tropics. As you go nearer and nearer equator, this is the order of the seasons you find, which is quite different from the order you find as you approach the poles. So, when you study the Vedic texts and the texts as commentaries of the Vedic, you should have this as your basis in your mind. So, the summer is made the fuel, because summer is the season of the total combustion of everything on this earth. In the tropical countries, the water is taken as fuel and is converted into vapor and produced into this space to be purified, to be brought back again as cloud and rain in the rainy season. So it is called the season of the combustion of the waters. That is summer. That's firewood. So summer is used as fuel or firewood. Yes, they are included. If you want all the 6 names, you can have. The first one is called Vasanta. The second one is called Grishma, summer. The next one is called Varsha. The next one is called Sharat. The next one is Hemanta. The 6th one is Shishira. That is how the six names go. Now, he has described spring, summer and moon season in this stanza. The Devas used spring as ghee and they used summer as the firewood for fuel. Pardon? Yes, the waters are made vapor. Vaporization of the waters. So summer was used as the firewood for the combustion, and then the moon season is used as the grain for offering, the grains, because it is during the moon season that the plants bear grain. The annual plants, they bear grain during the moon season. Near the tropics, I think here also almost it's the same, or there is some difference. There may be some difference of some weeks. So the moon season is the season in which the annual trees, annual plants, they produce their corn, that is the wheat, rice, etc. That's why that season is used as grain offering to the Lord. So the Devas produced the season as the grain offering. They produced the spring as oil. They produced summer as firewood, and they produced the moon season as grain offering. That means the Devas produced the planets and the rotation of the planets and the cycles of time, the year and the season, the effects of the seasons, and the fauna and flora produced through the seasons. We go to the next stanza. Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah.
The initiation of cyclic activity.
Cyclic activity.
Is that what draws the fire out of the deep?
It's exactly. Because when the earth is produced there is the rotation of the earth and the interaction between sun and earth. This produces the cycles. It produces what we call the oil content of this earth, the fuel content of this earth, etc. So from the season, the fauna and flora are produced. Seventh stanza. We go to the seventh stanza. Saptasyasan paridhayah trisapta samithaha kritaha deva yat yajnam tanvanaha. This is long again. Tanvanaha abadhnan purusham pashum kritaha. Divide here. Sapta plus asya plus asan. 3 words. Asan. Sapta, asya, asan. Like this you have to divide. This is one word. Parithayaha. Trisapta. Samithaha. Kritaha. कृता है क्या? कृताः लेकिन कान्सोनेंटल एंडिंग पलुकुतारु बिड्ड ఉండనే ఉంటానే. कृताः देव यत् यज्ञं तन्वानाः. You have to add